Hey, welcome to Chumming With The Spirits. I'm here with a special guest today. Of course, we got Old G, which is Old Guy. We got Parachum himself, the man, the myth, and the legend. And then we got JD there. And today we have a special guest that we met at the Kansas City Paracon, Carter Buschardt.
Missouri Paracon.
Missouri Paracon. Okay,
Missouri
there
Paracon.
we go. Now I haven't even started drinking
It was
yet.
in Kansas City.
But it was in Kansas City. So the Missouri Paracon. And Carter's written 5 books, I believe.
Impressive.
Yeah, so he's got a lot. I've talked to him on the phone. It was absolutely amazing talking to him. I felt like I was talking to like a best friend from a long time ago. Just really connected, and he has some great stories. I'm on book number 2 right now, and I think you're into book 1 right now.
Yep.
And,
I'm in book 1.
You're in
about
book 1
halfway
as well.
through.
And I got questions.
Fire away.
So, Carter, if you would, why don't you give us everybody as much or less information
Let's do
about
it.
yourself?
Cheers
What
to
you doing?
Cheers.
Carter's here.
Okay, let's do that.
Oh, cheers, 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 cheers. Nothing in there but cheers.
It's not bad.
Nick.
Wow.
Chocolate vodka.
Yeah.
Not usually a vodka fan, but that's not bad.
So that's it for today for me.
Now, let's see.
I'm from Dallas, Texas originally. Born and raised there. First, from my teen years till my 30s, I was a rock drummer. Had no idea about any of this, the Sasquatch. I mean, it was, I was in a different world, and then 3 years after I got done with playing music, I did improv comedy for about 3 years.
Okay.
That's
Yeah.
cool.
And that group was doing very, very well. And my partner, there was 3 of us, and he got a brain tumor and passed away. And we were supposed to go out and audition for Whose Line Is It Anyway?
Oh, really?
Who knew, what is that? What are you talking about? Nobody knew who that was, and so that was the end of that. So I got into real estate because I said, well, I got to make a living somehow. Everybody said, well, you're kind of a funny guy. If you ever decide to get into real estate, that'd be the thing for you. So I got into real estate. So for 26 years, I did, real estate. But somewhere along the line, my wife and I took a vacation to Washington State 15, 17 years ago. I can't remember. And we went to I'm trying to think. We were in Seattle, but east of there. We're on the other side of Mount Hood. We're on the eastern side, where it's a little cooler. They had just passed legalizing marijuana in Washington State.
Okay. Good reason to be there.
Yeah. Well, that's not why we went. I just wanted to go because, they have Sasquatch out there. It sounds kind of exciting. I mean, isn't it interesting? So let's go, And so we're just hiking through the woods, minding our own business, and they kept warning you, don't go hiking in the woods if you're not familiar, because there's a lot of growers that were shooting at people.
Okay, that's real.
Killing them.
Yeah.
Because their lifestyle is gone now. Their livelihood is being taxed. You can buy it for free. You don't have to have a dealer. So that was all going on. But when we were just hiking, doing our own thing, and I said, I got to take a leak. So I went behind a tree, take a leak. I looked down, and there's a ammo box strapped, chained to the tree at the base. I'm kicking it. I'm going, oh God, I think I found somebody's stash. Or I mean, that's what I thought. I said,
Right.
Maybe it's booby trapped. I gotta take a leak. So, but long story short, I took my leak and I was there, and I'm left-handed, so I opened it with a twig with my right hand in case it was booby trapped. They'd blow my right arm off. I could still right in my leg. That was my logic.
I'm a lefty as well, so I get that.
Yeah, so that was my logic. So anyway, I opened it up and nothing happened. And inside, it was the geocache.
Yeah. That's
The
what I was
geocache
going.
game.
Okay.
You know what that is?
No.
Yeah.
No, I know
We-
nothing
we-
about
we
it.
know.
I got his cherry, okay.
Yeah.
So geocache is where you it's like just a game. Everybody in the world's playing it, and you are given coordinates, and you have to go find
Oh, wow.
whatever, like
That sounds fun.
north 417-3-4 degrees, and latitude, you're given all these coordinates. You have to go to that coordinate and find whatever is there.
Okay.
And a lot of the geocaches have when you find it, it's a puzzle to open it nowadays.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah. So I opened it, and one of the first things I saw was a business card for a BFRO investigator from Washington State.
That's cool.
I went, oh, this is supposed to happen, So I called and I got in touch with the person who was doing the expeditions for Missouri. I went on an expedition. I loved it. How do I become an investigator? They told me you just got to, act like you're interested, have some kind of acuity for the information, and so you kind of know what you're doing. And so they made me an investigator real quick. And I met Matt Moneymaker in Kansas when they were doing the Finding Bigfoot TV show. I was at that time I was doing forwarding work. In other words, I was working with the TV producers and stuff, coordinating conversations between the witnesses that they were going to have to the town hall. And and a lot of the people on those shows were mine, because I have 100 reports published to BFRO. That's a lot of reports published, not just sitting all published. So, but I was supposed to be the go-between, and a lot of people were getting calls. The producers were not going through the proper protocol. The people want to know if someone's going to be calling them, who are they, and they would just call them out of the blue. So that's why I was in there, to be a liaison, to get into that, because people, who are these people calling me? How do they know who I am? There was very secret information at the time. So anyway, when I was there, and I'm very anal retentive. As I said, I was in real estate for years, and I'm very anal with my paperwork. So when I met Matt for the first time, I sat down. I had 2 notebook folders full of maps and photos and diagrams and reports and all this stuff. It was all organized. He's going, "You want to lead expeditions?" It was pretty much just like that, because the guy, I didn't know who he was. I knew him, but not well. I knew who he was. He didn't like it. But I took over, and that's when I started leading the expeditions, and that's when I had that first time when I was leading the expedition. It was 2011 or 12. I don't remember exactly the date. It was South Missouri, Mark Twain National Forest, and we had about 20 people. We sent a group of about 7 or 8. They volunteered to go, and they were going to make a big circle and come back to where we were camped. And this was at night. It was about 11 o'clock. So we were sitting there waiting, and we were doing our banging on trees and doing all that silly stuff. And suddenly we get a call. I could tell they were panicked and they were lost. And they had no radio because we were in a holler. So the radio was cracking up, so you could hear every other word. I got the word that they were lost and freaking out, want to know where to get back. I said, well, if you can't hear my radio, I can't tell you how to get back. If you tell me where you are, I can tell you to go back to the next trail and take a left. And it doesn't have a sign on it. Take that one and come back to us. So we got that part. So we're just sitting there dark, be dead quiet in the middle of the night, 11 o'clock or so, waiting for them to come back around. I'm scanning the woods with my thermal. I'm not recording to save batteries. Here's a clue. Don't not record. Record everything, because
That's fair.
what I'm about to tell you I missed. But I was a rookie. So I'm scanning, I don't see anybody, and suddenly I hear, the radio's kind of cracking. I think they're coming, 'cause I think I heard that much out of it. So they're coming this way, and I'm looking for a heat signature. I start to see a heat signature, and it's coming around this curve. I'm thinking, well, I think that's them, but it's not all of them. There's just one, maybe one's ahead. Well, it wasn't them, it was a Sasquatch. And it took one step, came around the corner, saw us all there, sitting there, and we were, and boom, it just vanished. It took the second step, it went one step in, took the second step right in the middle of the trail, saw us there, and it just disappeared. It was like a flash bulb went off in front of my face, just
On your FLIR camera.
on my FLIR.
Yeah.
I'm looking through my FLIR. It's just like I'm blinded.
Can you explain to people what a FLIR camera
Well,
does?
a FLIR is forward-looking infrared, so it's night vision, where everything that is alive has a heat signature. The trees, if you're looking at white hot or black hot, the trees are glowing white hot because they've absorbed the sun's rays.
All day long.
So everything that's living has a heat signature.
Correct.
You can make it colors, black or white. Mine was on white.
And did you see the outline of?
Yeah, no, I saw the outline of the body. I saw the body. It was a humanoid, tall humanoid. We later found out 7.5 to 8 feet tall. And but when it took that second step, it was gone.
That's crazy.
And so the people I'm with, the people that got me into the BFRO, the people that were there before I got there, were all very close-minded. It's ape only. They can't do anything. They can't, change vibrational frequency. They can't, speak. They can't do any of this stuff everybody's saying. So I'm sitting there going, well, I just saw something that says you're full of it. So I'm going to take the fork. I took the left fork and not the right. And I've been into the open-minded paranormal quantum camp since then. I've since heard, seen, they speak to me, they speak to my people, my witnesses. So it is a real thing. You just have to wrap your head around it. If you can't, that's okay, because we've all been told for the first 18, 22 years of your life that certain things don't exist.
Right.
School, church, government, social media, whatever.
Texas.
Yeah, you just, there's no ghosts, there's no UFOs, there's no Sasquatch, there's no Dogman, there's no, rake, no nothing. And so anybody tells you that, they're nuts, they're crazy, they're mistaken. And so when you start to see things like I did, it opens your mind, and since I saw something that I cannot dispute, it happened right in front of me, I'm going, I have to consider this, I have to believe that.
Absolutely.
I saw it.
That's fantastic.
So that's where it got. And now my research, I've led 4 expeditions for BFRO. The last one was in 2019 in Illinois, and that was during COVID. So, but they've all been great and wonderful. And I've met a lot of the people that I've met. I started doing these reports, and the witnesses, the people, they've got them living on the property. They've been dealing with them for anywhere from 2 years to a generation or 2, which a generation is 25 years. So the grandkids go to grandpa's and they see the Sasquatch. Well, grandpa goes to the nursing home. The kids inherit grandpa's house. They live on the property. Guess what?
They're seeing it.
They're already used to the Sasquatch. The Sasquatch have seen them growing up. They may have been seeing the Sasquatch growing up. But that's what got me into the habituation part of my research, is that so many people, they're living with them. They're living with them on their property. It's such a routine, they forget to tell you sometimes.
Because it's just an everyday part of their lives.
It's an everyday,
Yeah.
every week, every 2 weeks.
For
every
guys like you that investigate, you're like, no, that's incredible.
Yeah.
That's really important.
Yeah.
And guys like me, I'm like, okay, just getting into cryptids. Like, holy smokes, I can't even imagine that. What your feelings were, what your thoughts were going through your mind.
Yeah.
That's absolutely,
So I have to ask, I hope you guys don't mind me jumping in
No,
a question. The thermal that you saw and it just blipped out of existence, do you lend more towards Sasquatch, Bigfoot, Dogman, whatever we're talking about, cryptid-wise, being able to do something like that biological in nature, that they have some sort of something that they can change their body temperature on a whim, or do you think it's technological?
I think it's a body control. I think they can change their vibrational frequencies.
Oh, wow.
That's interesting.
Because you can be standing right there looking at them, and suddenly they're not there, but they're still there. You just can't see them.
Yeah, because I think about it as bad as the movie was, the new Flash movie, where he's able to vibrate fast enough and like move through things.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering if they have that capability that they can vibrate so fast that we're no longer able to see or detect them.
I believe that's entirely possible. My witness that lives out west, she has them visiting her. They come through the walls in the house.
Damn.
No, I just started reading a little bit of part of that.
Yeah, it's fascinating, and if you've got a closed mind, you won't believe this, but she's got this incredible gifting thing going on where she's gifting teddy bears, and they put them in plastic bags and beads and gifts and dolls and all kinds of stuff. It's very elaborate, and the Sasquatch will take the bears, these toy bears that are in the bags, and switch them, put them in different bags, and they'll take the clip that is on the bag holding it closed. They'll put the different clips, but the bags are different bags, and they'll just jack with you.
Really?
Or maybe that they just do it accidentally because they took them in. One of the times they materialized into her bedroom, the baby had the bag in one hand and the bear in the other, and the mother was holding it, and they just come through the wall.
I mean,
And is that
it's incredible, but she must have the constitution of steel. Because if I saw a mama Sasquatch holding a baby Sasquatch, holding things that I had gifted them, come into my bedroom through a wall, I would need to change my clothes, my sheets.
Maybe the neighbor's sheet.
Your religion.
My religion.
Everything else that goes along with that.
But that's the kind of thing, and here's the other oxymoron, is that her husband did not believe, and we were having all these things going on. And he says, I don't know what you're doing, thinking if you're on pot or whatever you're doing. There is no such thing. Well, he heard about it. They have a 50-year-old son who lives with them, adult son. He's autistic. And so he's lived with them his entire life. And he calls the Sasquatch George.
That's cool.
So they can speak about Sasquatch, and they use the word George because sometimes he's reluctant to talk about it. Like he's going to get in trouble. They think, and I believe too, that they talk to him a lot more than he's letting on because he's special needs. And you hear that a lot. They can communicate because it's like they're dealing with a child.
Yeah.
And they're fascinated with children. And they know he is their son. So, but the thing that convinced the hubby, well, he was up about 3 o'clock one morning, sitting in the living room watching TV. He had a knee replacement. He was in a lot of pain. Did not want to take the pain pills. He's a real strict stickler about that. So he was just watching TV until he got sleepy and fell asleep. But he's sitting there watching TV, and all of a sudden, through the picture window, probably 50 feet, he sees one just walking across. Big picture window in his living room. He's going,
what is this?
Crap, it's real. Dang it. So this is the oxymoron. He believes that. He believes they're real and that. He won't believe the other stuff.
Isn't that?
Is that the weird?
Yeah.
I draw the line at seeing it and knocking on trees and all this other stuff and structures. But they can't do that. But I believe that.
But that's where I was like 3 months ago. I was like, this is my belief system, I'm staying with that. Then all of a sudden, I'm doing more research, reading your books. Yeah. I'm talking to your friend Jason. I'm thinking, quit being so close-minded about it. If you know about this, why is that not a possibility?
Well, and I have to throw this in there. Like, I do a lot of the alien research and sky watching and paranormal investigation. Having a Bigfoot come into your bedroom, trumps an alien, a ghost, a shadow figure. You see that, and you know there's nothing I can do if they want to do something.
Yeah.
Well,
And they don't.
Yeah.
They don't want to do anything. They're trying to keep us from killing each other, destroying the planet. They're fascinated with our families. They especially love watching women and children playing because, they have children. They nurture and love them just like we do. They get spanked or whooped just like we do. I mean, it's a parallel, and they're watching this. But for the fact that they're 8 feet tall and 1,000 pounds and covered in hair and we're beautiful like me.
Yeah.
We're the same.
Yeah.
I mean, we are the same.
Yeah.
We meet people, we mate, we breed, we have families, we have children, we, go to the grocery store, they go down to the pond and catch some fish, twist the head off a deer and eat dinner, same thing.
yeah, it's all good, right?
Yeah.
But they're the same thing. They have family units. Some of my habituation folks, that's why it's so fascinating, they grow up with these family units. And suddenly they won't see one around. Like it either got run off by the clan or died.
Well, I would like to back up just a step. You were talking about gifting like teddy bears and stuff like that. I was reading your book, obviously, and you had it's kind of a tagline. And I laughed my butt. I spit tea throughout my nose when I read it. People gifting, then all of a sudden they stop gifting. And the Bigfoot or Sasquatch, whatever you want to call them, they're like, hey, what the hell's going on here?
Yeah.
They get upset that you're not bringing us food anymore, you're not bringing this anymore, and it pisses them off.
Yeah.
And they're going to let you. So be careful what you're
You have to
at.
you have to be very careful in an habituation system. You can gift food like apples and but if you start giving them rotisserie chickens and a big bowl of mashed potatoes,
Better get a Costco or Sam's Club
I
membership.
want more.
Yeah.
And you don't give me, they slap the side of your house.
No,
and
that's Larry with crackers. With my wife
Yeah.
make cracker, he's a jerk all night.
Yeah.
So I want to ask, because we recently started talking to a couple of friends from Arkansas on the Drunken Cryptids podcast, and they're big into the infrasound theory.
Yeah.
I don't know much about electronics and that kind of thing. Is it possible to create an infrasound pattern that can make solid materials liquid,
Oh, absolutely.
allowing them to pass through? You know where I'm going with
Okay,
this?
I'm thinking liquefy, but yeah, you can do a sound wave to create something to liquefy.
So there's a cheesy movie with The Rock called Doom.
Yeah.
And they have walls that are solid, but then they put a frequency through it, and it liquefies, and they
Or
can pass
walk
through it.
Right.
I'm wondering if infrasound can be an explanation.
You're talking about why people can't get good pictures?
No,
blurry
for
or
them
how-
being able to materialize through the walls into the bedrooms.
Infrasound is, I know I'm not a scientist, and I don't play well on TV, but infrasound, is a sound that is above or below the human range of hearing. And that's what they used to use, and I think they still do, to dispel rioting crowds overseas. They
Yeah.
haven't used it a lot here because of it's too cruel.
Ethical.
Yeah. And so, and I've been hit with infrasound. I've been frozen where I can't move my hand. I want to unzip my tent, and I can't. And I know there's a Sasquatch out there. I heard it walking. And because I thought it was my partner, and getting up to take a pee. Crunch, kind of heavy steps, but I said, "Steve, is that you?" Yes, the stop. Steve, wait up, I'm going to join you, because I had to take a leak. But I couldn't get out of my bag.
Wow.
My arms just wouldn't do it. And I was lucid, I was awake, I'm going, when they hit you with that blast, like I'm talking about the sound cannons over in Europe when they use them, it's above or below, and it tears your guts up.
Yeah.
Like whales, lions, tigers, dolphins, sharks, all them, they use that to communicate.
Right.
So I don't know that it could be used to create or to liquefy molecular stuff. I don't know. I haven't studied it.
Yeah.
I just know it to be a disruptive in the below or above the below 20 megahertz, I think, and above 30 kilohertz. I can't remember what like I said, I'm not a scientist. But
Yeah, it's known to stun things.
there's a range, and it'll knock you on your butt.
Well, absolutely.
I've seen a guy walking, and he just collapsed. And I heard this, and then all of a sudden he hits the ground. You hear-
Really?
It's like somebody hit.
And this
it
was
like
on
a
an
blow dart.
expedition
It was
or
a knife. It was like,
It just.
yeah.
That's. You see, I really believe like big cats, like you talk. I think they have it. I think they can use it to paralyze or
Yeah.
play their
The
body
roar,
out there.
tigers
So I'm
are
thinking,
known.
why couldn't Bigfoot do that?
Elephants
Yeah.
use it.
Have that ability.
It's just another something in their arsenal.
Yeah.
You know? If they are the master of all the things we dream about, we don't have a chance, and we don't. We just have to go with what they give us.
Yeah.
You know, and so I get a lot. I get pictures in my head. I get pictures at night. I got pictures a couple, 2 or 3 nights ago of things they're just showing me. Like, it's just things that lets you know that you're on the right track and you're seeing and hearing things that verifies what you think as far as how they live, where they live, what they do. They show me where they live, and their kids are playing and sticking sticks in the ground, looking for moles and mice, teaching them how to dig, for food and stuff. So, that's what I know about infrasound. But it's a real thing, But for them to change the molecular structure of like glass or logs on a log cabin to come through, I know that's possible. I just don't know how they would do that, But you're just, you can deconstruct your molecular structure.
Yeah, I look at it like kind of like the Willy Wonka movie. What was it? The camera thing where he transported one kid.
Star Trek.
Or Star Trek, yeah.
It's the same concept. We just don't know how they do it. Since we don't know how they do it, it can't be. It's not real. So that's not how to do it. They're all full of crap.
Well, this eyewitness is seeing these things coming through her walls.
Yeah.
I mean, there's something to that. Right?
Well, and I've mentioned this before that, like, we're bound by the rules and understanding of the physical world that we know and understand in the current moment.
Right.
That doesn't mean that we can be wrong.
No, you said that the last podcast too, and I think
200 years from now,
think you're on
we
the
may understand why they're doing that and be like,
how they're doing
those
it.
guys were
I think we'll
idiots.
understand it here in the next 10 or 15. Actually.
I hope so.
Wouldn't that be great?
There's some really bizarre stuff going on. That's just a personal belief, But they have the ability to communicate, to shut you off, to shut you down, to turn you on, to turn you off. I mean, they can do whatever they want.
And I think that happened to a friend.
Turn you on while you're
No, I'm good.
Yeah. Have another shot of chocolate rum.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit more.
Yeah.
We got a friend that with Drunken Cryptids where he was affected by that.
Yeah, he
actually,
calls
the
it
whole-
being zapped
The
by
whole,
infrasound.
the
Yeah.
whole group
Exactly.
had side effects
Yeah.
from it, but he
Exactly.
really,
And it messed him up for a few days. I believe.
about 3 days
Yeah.
took him to get back to
Depends on
normal.
how hard they hit you.
I would like, and if you're okay with this, Carter, we're going to throw stuff at you, and I hope you're okay. It's just like a discussion. I believe I read a lot of book 1 and the beginning of book 2. You're talking about counting and what that Bigfoot can count,
Oh, yeah.
and how you were talking about how you're leading an expedition. And I would like for these guys to hear, because I don't know if they've read that part so far, and how you saw the gifting of the rocks and how,
Next to the
counting.
camera.
Yeah, if you could share that with us.
Yeah.
It's amazing. If you want to start from the beginning of the story, that's fantastic.
Yeah. Well, they can count. For the longest time, you pull up to an area and you're getting out of your vehicle, you hear this doof, doof. That's weird. Okay, nothing to it, Well, then when you get back to your vehicle, you hear this doof, doof, bam, bam, a couple tree knocks. And so you're going, well, it's me and Brian here. There's 2 knocks when we got out of a truck. There's 2 knocks when we got in. They're counting.
Yeah.
They're telling everybody.
How many of you there are?
I love this. I love this.
The story where I discovered the manipulation of data. This kid went camping, and it was just when COVID started, and I think he lived in Oklahoma. No, he lived in Texas, and he went up to Oklahoma to get away from all the crazy. You can't go anywhere. It's rationed. Things closed. You can't be, got to wear a mask, and so they're tired of all that crap. So we're going to go camping, get away from all this. So they drove up to Oklahoma somewhere, I can't remember, and they went camping, and they pitched up their tents and everything, and then it just started pouring rain, and so they had to go spend part of the night in their tent, and they were just, oh God, but suddenly it stopped. So they got out, and they put a big rock ring outside the tent, and they got some firewood. They think it finally was dry. They had a fire, and they were just sitting there. And then it started pouring down rain again, and then all these knocks started happening. Bam, bam, bam. From that direction. Then bam, bam, bam. Bam, bam, bam. Further away, faint. Bam, bam, bam. Just barely hear it. But all around them, these knocks. So they're going, well, I think that might be Sasquatch. I'm not sure. They wanted it to be, but they weren't. They'd never had anything. All of a sudden, the knocks came closer and closer from all different directions. It was getting louder and closer, and then they started hearing cracking and footsteps and all this stuff. And they're in their tent. There's 3 guys in there, and he looked at his clock on his watch. It was like 1 o'clock, 1:11, I think. And so they were just like freaking out because there was something walking around. The Sasquatch, they didn't see him. They could hear him. They were walking around the camp all around them. And then it just stopped. And so they stayed up for another couple hours, decided it was safe, and so they went ahead and went to sleep. They got up the first thing in the morning, going to get the hell out of there. So they get up. They get up, and the first thing they notice is that the fire they had, the fire ring of rocks, there's 3 rocks taken out of the ring, and they put it right in the middle of the fire.
No way.
Huh.
They were letting them know there's 3 Sasquatch, there's 3 of you guys.
We're going to win.
Well, we took, that was a communication.
Yeah.
And they were, oh my God.
Yeah, that's good.
And so the kid called me. He said, you do reports? Yeah, he was telling me he was just all freaked out and excited. He's telling me the whole thing. And I typed up the report. Now, I'm very anal. Like I said, real estate 26 years. So when at BFRO, you get a report. You read it and you can print it off. So then you can make your questions you're going to ask them if you call them. So then I call them and interview them. And then I fill out my report based on what they're telling me. And then I finish it up, make sure it's all nice and looking, and then I print it off, and then I send it in to be published to BFRO. Well, it got published. I looked at it, I said, it's cool, another one got published, that's cool, that's a cool report, I didn't read it, because I already knew what was in it.
Right.
Famous last words. So, I get a call, I think I emailed him, I won't use his name, and I said, hey, your report's published. Just thought you'd want to see it. So, well, cool, thanks. I'll look at it. He calls me. He's all pissed off. He's going, what's going on? I said, well, what'd you do to my report? What'd you mean? It's published. That's not what I told you. So, so I pulled it up. I went, that ain't what you told me. What the heck?
Wow.
And that's when I discovered
Yeah.
the manipulation of data.
Yeah, that's horrible.
That's messed up.
Yeah.
They don't believe it.
And that's what hurts us going forward in these kind of fields.
But
right?
I mean, what purpose would you have to change that? I just don't understand.
Some of it's the old guard of they don't want to believe anything other than what they believe. I mean, and
It
So
change-
you're
yeah.
going to censor everyone else?
If it
Yeah.
doesn't fall in their
Right.
belief system,
You don't want to lose your TV show.
wow. And you know what?
That's called being
Just a couple weeks
cocksucker.
ago, a certain
There's-
podcast that we deal with, our friends Drunken Cryptid, said the same thing.
yeah, there's a
Don't
fine
wanna-
line. Yeah,
Advertisers dictate what's on your show.
Wow,
and you don't want to look bad.
Period.
So sad.
Matt. I disagreed with you last week, and now, like I said, I'm opening my mind.
Well, so that happened, and that's happened to. I went to lunch with another investigator here a couple weeks ago, and this person told me the same thing. He did it to my first report. I'm not going to name names, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And so, you want to protect a TV show.
Yeah,
Sponsors, we don't want to do this woo stuff. Yes, sir.
Wow.
So, if you think, even with the new expedition, Bigfoot, they're not going to find anything. It's the same dead end as all the others.
I hate.
It just makes me sad.
You're the second person that's told me that. That really breaks my heart hearing that.
I mean, they're
It
giving
does.
some evidence. I do like their approach of like actually looking.
Yeah,
for
no, I mean, it's better. You had, two definite skeptics on the first one, and this one, it's a little better, But that's the sadness, and that's how the government works. They
Well,
tell you what they want you to see and hear, and nothing else.
Wow.
If you think that, believe that, you're crazy, you're nuts. It's not going to happen. So that's those who are in power stay in power. Unless
So-
you crack the nuts a little bit.
Yeah, that's
We
just,
gotta clean
that's
up
just
around
sad. So before we get into some more questions, we're going to take a quick commercial break to refill our drinks, let people use the restroom real quick, and check our cameras. So we'll be right back.
What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Parachum from Chumming With The Spirits podcast. So drop that bag of Cheetos and get up off the couch to get your tickets for Paracon KC now, before you start contemplating all the bad choices you've made up to this point. It's going to be a tubular extravaganza, and you don't want to be the loser who thought about going but missed the chance to meet some bodacious speakers, podcasters, and vendors. We will be there all day Saturday, as well as leading the investigations at the Masonic Lodge Friday and Saturday night. So to those up to the challenge, we will see you there. And party on, dudes and dudettes.
Welcome back. Thank you for allowing us to take a break, refill our drinks, and empty our tanks a little bit. We're here. We're going to ask some more questions with Carter. So cheers.
Cheers. Your mama.
Some of these guys are still learning how to drink.
I'm pretty new to the game.
You okay there?
I'm gonna get there. Let me take a drink.
So the one, I'll start with this question.
Sure.
You did it to me. What are your thoughts on multi-speciation of Bigfoot? Do you think
This is good.
there's different species and subclasses of Bigfoot, or do you think it's all based on genetics and locational
Environment.
I think it's more environmental because you got the skunk apes in Florida, which are at least a foot or two taller, shorter.
Yeah, and we've noticed
and
that
they're very hostile.
the
very aggressive.
shorter they are, the more aggressive. Just like dogs, the smaller
Yeah,
the
just
dog.
like humans.
Yeah,
You got
and
short
humans.
man syndrome.
Yeah.
I got a small penis. I got a big truck.
I don't even have a
Why
big
you gonna bring up the truck car? Seriously, that's
It's rocket science. That's what I learned in Sasquatchery.
It's red
Sorry
rocket
about
science.
That's why some of us go to the gym.
Yeah, you can click that out. Sorry about that.
It's red rocket
No,
science.
but I think if you go to British Columbia and up toward the northern areas of Canada, it is reported they're 12, 13, 15 feet
That's
tall.
crazy.
Because they're not inhibited by stress factors of society, civilization, protecting your family, scarcity of food. So they can live their lives with very little interruption, and they are also probably a little bit more aggressive. They don't want anything to do with humans.
Well, and I have to wonder if gravitational pull plays into effect.
That's what
in
I've
the-
always said
in-
about the north.
in the development.
Yeah, the farming up north.
Because the closer you are to the equator.
Yeah, I've always said that with humans. Though. I never thought about with Bigfoot.
But when you look at it, like
I've always said that.
Southern Americans, South Americans, Mexicans, and all that stuff, they tend to be shorter in stature,
100%.
as opposed to like
Norse.
Norse people.
Wisconsin, South Dakota, North Dakota. Every one of those people I know, one of my kids played ball in South Dakota.
Yeah.
Every one of those farmer kids and their parents, I'm just like, I'm 6'2" plus, and I'm looking up at every one of these guys.
Damn,
and they have the biggest heads I've ever seen. So I do believe that.
Yeah. So, in regards to this book right here, I wanted to ask you, because one instance stood out to me more than any of them, and it was the instance where they came across they came back to the campfire, and there was a Bigfoot or Sasquatch crouched down near the fire eating a rat. But they described it as having white hair, grayish white hair, and what appeared to look like in some spots more of dread-like structure than hair. Apart from like the Nepalese Yeti and all that kind of stuff, I've never heard another encounter with a white-haired, gray-haired cryptid.
Okay.
Or
So you're not
Bigfoot.
doing translucent hair like the polar bear.
No, like more like this.
Okay.
That's why, I've got 5 reports published.
That fascinated me.
Like-
But the dreadlocks in specific,
Yeah.
because that to me in turns,
Indian culture.
no, it in turns motor skills, intelligence, and you don't hear that very often being associated with Bigfoot.
But don't
Sas-
you see that in their structures though? I mean, the winding and the binding of the beds and how they have to
but
interweave this
not
stuff, right?
I mean, I don't ever hear it in apparel
On their body.
on their body.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I apologize.
So
No, there are a lot of reports of them seeing woven hair, dreadlocks.
Really?
You know, I've had my
need to do some more
habituation
research.
family up in Grain Valley. They're not there any longer, but they had their horses' manes braided in locked barns at night.
wow,
Yeah,
really?
yeah.
What would you do if you came out and saw your horse like that?
I'd be like, dude, that's awesome.
Yeah, some of them were, if you ride horses a lot, the wind whips the mane and it
Yeah.
could look like it's woven.
I can understand
These
that.
are like finesse. These are like three woves.
Like braided.
Three woves. I mean, it's a.
And the horses allowed that.
I don't know if they have
I'm going to zap you and you're out.
Yeah, he's got a point.
You're just going to stand there.
The horses may not have been able to
Just
stop
like
it.
Stand there right now.
Yeah.
You're done. You're out.
I can't get my mind wrapped around that.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That's not crazy.
No, it's not. It is.
It's a real-
I'm trying to absorb
I know.
this.
Yeah. I've got a couple of pictures of braids somewhere in my collection of stuff, but they braid the manes, and so I think it could be a cultural thing. With the elders, maybe the elders get to wear the braided.
Oh, there you go.
Maybe
makes
it's a
sense.
status thing. I do not know. Maybe they just do that as the Africans. They braid and do all sorts of stunning stuff with their hair, just incredible weaves, and using berries and stuff to color them, and blues and
The fascinating one in that regards to me is the one where the people put the discs in their lower lip.
Ubangies.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, you're saying, and I'm trying to remember that chapter, but it was a white-haired
Yeah, like light
Sasquatch.
gray.
So
white.
we're probably thinking it was older, like you were talking about. Maybe a chieftain that
shit.
has that ability.
I never thought about that. The
great
color could have
degree.
been age related.
Yeah.
And that one that was eating the roadkill in the ditch, they, or one of the other families, Kansas, I believe, thinks they saw the same. They had 2 reports. I think they think they saw the same one as a juvenile and as an adult, because it was in the same general area.
Wow.
And it was taller and bigger.
A couple of years later.
Yeah. This
So-
would be off of Highway 54 in Kansas.
So I know a lot of. I'm monopolizing.
No,
this, I
you
apologize.
go ahead. I have a question.
I know a lot of accounts can be tied to the missing 411 connection and cave systems and all that kind of stuff. It's weird how those all like overlap one another.
Ways, right?
What are your thoughts on habitation for these creatures? Do you think they specifically live like underground, subterranean cave systems?
Yeah, I think so.
Or do you think they... Because I've seen pictures of the tree hut structures and all that kind of stuff. Or do they just mainly come out to hunt and explore?
Well, there's not that, here in Missouri, they are living on the land for the most part of my families. They see them daily, weekly, monthly, watching them work the farm, doing stuff. My witnesses will see them walking, peeking from behind trees, just walking by, not looking at them, but they know they're checking them out. But they're in the neighborhood, so they see them on a regular basis. I can't imagine them going to a cave to crash for the night and getting back up. All your hunting is done at night, nocturnally, and they see much better at night. So it would make sense for them to do all their hunting and stuff at night. But I think some may live in caves, but to have fresh water and game, that's not existing in the caves.
It's not.
I think there may be some other beings down in there. The ETs, I think, live in the oceans, in the caves, deep.
I totally believe
Very on a trench
in
and all
the
that.
theory of underwater aliens.
Absolutely.
I mean,
Yeah.
But you do talk about that in your first book about a cave system in a certain area with a river that runs by it or something like that, and how you found some certain things that might have been taken from somewhere like tours.
Yeah, that's why people up in just south of St. Louis. Don't want to give the town away, but I got a call one day from the mother, and she was freaking out. So much, her son and his friend had just come home from college to hang out for a couple days. They went down to the Merrimack River, and there's a cave there. It's been there forever. They've known about it it's always there. They saw a juvenile Sasquatch running out. They were going down toward that area, because this one area is the best way to get down to the river. There's a big flat washout area where the waters rise and it comes up, but when it goes down, the cave's exposed.
Right.
But
and you didn't think it was like stuff that came down through the river and then flew into the cave. You thought
these
it
were
was
like
a
kids'
playroom.
toys,
Yeah.
little trucks, little makeup kits, little play makeup.
That's creepy.
Socks, children's socks, and stuff that was in there. And I got pictures of it in the book, one of the books, I think. But this was a juvenile, because the cave was 3.5, maybe 4 feet tall.
Mm-hmm. And you thought it was like maybe a playpen or something like that.
Yeah, I think it was just it was about the size of that bathroom. And you go in there and you can stand up a little bit, but really on your knees. I'm 6'3", so you can't stand up. But there was all kinds of stuff in there. And it looked like a little playhouse for a little Sasquatch. And they saw it run out. There was all these little blocks and just little kids' toys. The river runs this way, and it would have to come around this way, go around about 25, 30 yards, come here, go into this cave. It just doesn't get up there, So, I mean, it does get puddled. But so I hauled my butt down there.
Yeah.
It was like Saturday afternoon or something.
That's right. You had to get on your hands and knees to crawl through, I think.
Yeah, because
I'm reading in the book right.
And so, And so I went down there, and I just ran right in there. I was going, look at all these little trinkets.
So it reminds me of, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah.
There's a new M. Night Shyamalan movie called The Watchers. I don't know if any of you guys have
We
seen
may
it.
have watched that. I'm not sure.
About the fairies, and they stand in front of the window, but they were changelings, and they go into that cave, and it's all these human, like bikes, video cameras, and all this stuff, because they're learning and studying us to mimic us and take over.
Is your camera good?
It's not red anymore.
So I wonder if that plays into. I wonder if it's a study mechanism, like they're trying to learn about our culture.
Oh, I'm sure they are. I mean, they want to know. And it's just like with the ETs. The ETs, not to change the subject, but they want the one thing we have they do not. With all their technology and advanced race, advanced intelligence, they have no emotion. They have no feelings for one another. And that's what they want from the humans. That's why they're down a lot, and you hear that a lot from the abductees. They want our emotion
Really?
because they don't have that. They don't.
I never thought about
That's
that.
interesting.
That's a different take. I've never even thought about that.
You ever heard of one report of an alien being mad, irate, screaming, yelling?
No, they're always calling.
It's all
Okay,
been
it's
really
all
methodical.
they're almost robotic. They're
Very
they're
methodical.
Strictly, the emotional quotient is not there for them. That's something I hear a lot. We can speak more on that on perhaps another
I'd love to.
show. But
Yeah,
I can tell you that that's one thing they're looking for.
Well, I got a kind of a question. You want me to wait, Jeremy? Okay.
Who?
And I know who you are. Speaking of the more northern Sasquatch up in British Columbia, and we're talking about how big they are they the apex? I know this is a simple question, but again, I'm learning how to walk. You know, I quit crawling.
Have you done your homework?
I've done some
You
homework.
feed the dog? Okay.
Yeah, I have. My next step is getting out in the field,
Yeah.
which you've encouraged me. Thank you. By the
You
way.
got to do it once you get your feet wet.
Yeah,
Go.
I appreciate that.
I want another tick bite.
Are they the apex predator out there?
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah.
I mean, we're talking bear, cougar.
The big boys,
Moose.
the 10, 12, 15 footers, yeah. Unless you've got a 50 caliber gun, possibly.
Yeah, but I'm
On
like,
you.
what do you think about going other
Well,
way?
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
There's very little you could do if you were to tussle with one.
Yeah, I don't want to.
Yeah,
And that's not what
he
they-
just wants to hug one.
I just like to have a hug,
Yeah.
a gentle hug.
The thing with them being up where they don't have to mess with the forestry companies, the tree companies coming in and cutting down all their stuff, you know. And that's where a lot of these stories, and they're not really stories, they're probably accounts of the lumber companies having.
Same video.
One of my guys worked on a tree replanting group, and they send it back in there they don't repopulate the forest. Canada's really bad about that. So you have to send people back up in there to start replanting the trees, you know, but going in those areas where there's no civilization, there's no Indian groups, there's no anybody living up there. Nobody, except an occasional hermit or somebody. Just nobody lives up there. So the Sasquatch have free reign with everything, with the trees and shelter and food and fishing and all that. So when they see us pesky little humans, they don't have to deal with us like the ones in like Missouri.
Yeah, we're all over the place.
You see us everywhere, and so they're spoiled. They don't have to deal with us. Who is this? Get this out of here! We're just a pest. Get them away. So they don't have to mess with us. So when you do run across one, it may not be a good
Pleasant.
outturn. Yeah.
Well, let me ask you that. Because I've joked about 7 months ago when we were talking about Bigfoot, like, how strong are these things? You see them where they're ripping trees out and shoving them. I'm assuming that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
Shoving them down upside down. They're breaking branches. They're doing things that are just phenomenal strength. I know an ape is absolutely strong as hell, right? I mean, they're just brutes. And I would be like a banana being peeled by one of those things. And be like, yeah, you're nothing. Get
Yeah,
away from
those
me.
trees, if they're shoving it upside down, which, by the way, is warning, do not go past this.
And that's what you, okay.
Yeah.
Well, that was my next question.
That's a
They're
pretty
in
good
the
warning.
1 to 2 ton range. If you take an 8-foot tree that is, the circumference is, 5 or 6 feet.
So I
you
can't
turn it
pick that
upside
up.
down.
No.
So you have
As
to
hard as
also,
I'd work out, I would not be able to do that.
I hate to say this, but you also have to take into account their metaphysical capabilities. If they have the ability to mess with ultrasound and do all that kind of stuff, they may have the ability to use that same mechanism to make things lighter.
Good. The theory is some of them, when they die, they may go to another dimension and pass. So there is
That's
no
why
body.
we're not finding.
There's no bodies.
Yeah.
If you take a 2 or 3 ton boulder that's just sitting next to a trail, they can move that, put a body down there, and put that rock back there. You think you're even going to bother looking under there? Well, this looks like a gravesite to me. It's about 2 or 3 tons.
Okay.
You won't even bother
No.
because it's not something you could humanly do. So they may bother. There was a video, a very good video, that disappeared off of YouTube of they go into the trees to die.
Yeah,
Spiritual.
I've seen that one. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Hand me that third book. Hand me that tan book right there. I'm going to show you.
That's the one with all the stuff in it you told me. So it gets really good.
Well, and you're talking
Third
about
book, people.
Yeah, third book.
that they don't like to mark their graves either. They don't like.
Oh, I've got an incredible story about that, but that print.
Yeah.
I mean, good God, man, that's some good stuff. I just couldn't be.
By the way, while he's looking at this, when I got off work and came to the Missouri Paracon,
Okay.
is that right?
Yeah. You
JD
don't take pauses like that.
Well, I've been told I need to slow my words down.
When I got off work and came,
JD.
I'm just saying.
Well, at least I spelled the words correctly. Not gonna say nothing drunken.
Tommy.
Anyway, JD grabs me and he goes, "Did you see that over there? Did you see the guy with the handprint?" I'm like, I walked right by it. He goes, "Go look." That's when I met Carter. That handprint, absolutely phenomenal.
I didn't get a chance to walk around and talk to people.
And that's a photograph.
That's a photograph.
From book 2, by the way.
Yeah. Here is, y'all can't see this because it's too far.
We'll
It's
post it.
black and white.
Yeah, we'll post videos or pictures.
These are orbs going up and down a tree. Same picture here, just from a distance. These orbs were going up and down a tree. He was standing there watching that and going, "What the heck?" It was like elevators going up and down like this, going back and up and down. And then when he was standing there, this mist came in.
Yeah.
And like this, and like this one started to materialize. He thought it was going to be a human or some kind of big so he bailed out. But you see, I've got pictures of my lady on the West Coast. She's got several pictures just like this.
There's a lot of reports with orbs on Bigfoot sightings,
So,
right?
Yeah.
Isn't there?
Right before, here's how it kind of works.
Let me see it.
If you have an orb, you're going to get an orb right before or right after a Sasquatch report. Or you'll get a Sasquatch report right before or right after an orb report. It's like they go in orb form, maybe to go from dimension to dimension, and they materialize into this third dimension we're in.
So you already so you knew what my question was going to be.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you explaining
But
that.
that's theory. It's all theory, folks.
so that's
It's happening, but it's all theory.
so that makes sense because I want to interject here
No,
real
please.
quick before we switch subject because this is reminiscent of a lot of people that take photos and claim that they're elementals. You see that segmented pattern, and I'm wondering if that could explain what elementals are, if they are transitional energy forms of Bigfoots or cryptids going into spiritual form.
Always a probability.
Yeah.
There's
See,
always
and the theory is that little light sequence there, as it goes from lighter to darker, they're coming into full force. Or if it's starting at the bottom, light, and goes dark toward the top, maybe they're disappearing. They're leaving this area.
Do you think
It
maybe
almost-
is that a portal opening? Are they summoning a portal?
no, I think it's a transition in my
Just a
opinion.
transition.
Okay.
But if you look at it closely, they almost look like the little round like Lego pieces that are used for like car lights and stuff. You know, the circular
Little
ones
discs.
that
Circular
have
disc.
the little bump on top. That's what they look like.
I have the same pictures from a lady out west, from an entirely different part of the country.
Well, and it's interesting too that they are the same dimension, almost like it's wrapped around the tree. Like it's not bigger than the tree, smaller than the tree trunk. It's the exact same size. So it makes me wonder if it's using the living energy from the tree somehow.
Wow.
I don't know. I'm going down rabbit holes here.
Rabbit holes.
But
Yep.
that's because this is the first time I've seen this because you've
Yeah,
been
'cause you didn't get
monopolizing
the
the books.
Well, because I bought them. They're mine. I don't want them back.
That is very intriguing.
This is important
picture.
for my library. By the way, thank you for signing every one of them.
You bet.
I see a lot of pictures, but these pictures are instrumental research pictures, in my opinion.
They're just what you need
Yeah.
to pigeonhole and to narrow down the focus of, well, this is what I think this is, and this is how come I think that, and that's something like that. I've got 3 photos. One I can't expose, I can't show, but I said I wouldn't, because you know exactly where it was, and they don't want to know. But those other 2 there, they're similar, and they're 1,000 miles away. So, it's a routine occurrence. It is a byproduct of the physical or molecular transformation, whatever it is they're doing.
Yeah.
Because that's the residue or a fingerprint that something is going on.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
That's really
crazy.
stunning. Man.
And that is the preacher man that took that picture.
Oh, that's right.
You know,
You're talking about the character of the witnesses.
the guy that was
Yeah.
Yeah.
with the hand photo.
Yeah.
Bigfoot can be a preacher,
Not talking about the witnesses of preacher.
but that's stunning.
The problem is that the theory of Sasquatch being interdimensional, being able to shed its physical body if it needs to, transform, answers a whole lot more questions than ape only. It's not even close. The ape only argument stops when you go, I just don't believe that. Well, that's not science, that's not research. You have to, just because your grandma or the government told you that there's no such things as ghosts or, leprechauns or Sasquatch, doesn't mean it's true. That just means she believes what she was told and she's never seen one.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you said earlier, it's extremely closed-minded to not entertain the possibilities of other theories in regards to all this stuff going on. If you look at it and it's an ape only, I can understand that. Like I believe that could be a possibility, but if you're not willing to at least hear out the other possibilities, you're really shutting yourself off.
You're 100%.
Yeah.
And I've been that guy for such a long time. Carter, I mean, and you talked in your book, because it reads to me, you did such a great job. So reading the book, I feel like you're really talking to me when I'm reading it. He is really talking. You make so much fun of science and science theory. How if it doesn't fit
Bigfoot
in their box,
Done.
and that we're people like you are discarded.
Yeah.
And I just love that. That's just common sense. What you're saying.
That's all it is. Yeah, it's not that big a thing, And so the fact that all this stuff is happening and being reported, you just can't shovel it away. You gotta okay, I'm gonna pretend like this is true. And what I say in my book is the whole thing. You don't have to tell anybody you're considering the paranormal.
Yeah.
It's our secret. We won't tell anybody you're looking into it. Because looking into it, considering, is not believing. It just means, I'll look into that.
Right.
That might be plausible.
Yeah.
If it doesn't float your boat, it doesn't work. That's fine. If you just can't get out of that, but you get so many more answers. I promise you, if you just consider some of these advanced concepts, and these concepts and skill sets have been reported for thousands of years with other humans, other beings. I mean, it's just not happening now. It's been going on forever.
And do you think it really opened up for you when you did catch that?
Saw that, didn't catch it
on your thermal. Yeah.
It was just like, what can I do? It vanished.
And then is that when let's start looking at all these possibilities.
That was the aha moment.
Yeah.
Because I kind of already had it anyway,
Did you?
Yeah. of course, you know, I've had other things going on in my life, you know, and that opened when I saw In Search of Leonard Nimoy, probably in mid-70s, whenever it came on. I can't remember. Oh, that's real. I know. That's Bigfoot. I mean, it was just like, I didn't question it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I wasn't old enough to have any scientific concept. I just said, oh, that's a Bigfoot. I've seen those. It was just like, I had accepted it at a young age.
Mm-hmm.
I probably didn't know any better, but I just thought, oh, that's cool. I've seen those before.
Well, it resonated with you. I mean,
Yeah, it
you
did.
knew, hey,
Yeah,
that's
you know, I
legit.
know now why I did, but there's
Right.
other reasons. So, but it was, so I just went into it with this open mind, and I'll be darned if all these people, these great, wonderful witnesses, they're sharing stuff with me. And you know, the guy called me. God, I've got a picture on my phone here where the wife sent the picture, said, you know, this is the Ron Moorhead Sierra Sounds. This is what he heard. He heard 2 Sasquatches. He was hunting the other morning. He wanted you to hear this.
Oh, I love that.
And so they send me a picture of a Sasquatch yelling, screaming. It's and she said there was 2 of them. They were yelling at each other or talking loudly. He couldn't understand.
Okay.
So I get that. You know, it's just like I get a piece of junk mail. You know, about your car warranty, as you know. But I get a picture of a Sasquatch screaming, or a recording.
Right.
Or a picture of a dog man slitting the plastic in a greenhouse while the guy's standing inside.
Can we please, maybe doesn't have to be right away. Have you back? 'Cause I do want to talk about Dogman with you.
Yeah.
That
Well,
occurrence.
you have a whole other side to talk about too with
My,
other
absolutely.
up my alley, because I'm huge on UFOs and aliens.
Yeah, and that. I don't even know what time it is.
It's 3:30.
3:30. So we got half hour. I don't know.
We have as long as you have.
Oh yeah. Well, no.
He's got half an hour.
4 because I got. But,
He's got a long drive.
when that happened, I was 8, so I had no concept. But certain things attracted me to them, and certain things I already determined to be true without looking into it. I just knew as a kid. I just, well, that's okay. Well, that's part of my world.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I just go, you know, I saw an alien today, I saw a Sasquatch. Yeah, but that sounds, but that was my world. So when, the first, the thing with the Sasquatch disappearing, it went, because I had already been regressed and I knew there was some, and so I went, this is, wow, God.
This is great.
But it was like, this is
Yeah.
cool. This is the research and the doggedness and just the belief that the world that I'm told isn't really the world. It's just what they want you to see and want you to believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and the Sasquatch thing, I don't know. That expedition I led in Illinois, 2019, told me everything, about them and my connections. You want me to tell you?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Whatever you want to give.
There's a log here. It's got 5 rocks on one end. During COVID, there was people that still wanted to go on an expedition. So they had like 20 people signed up. 4 wanted to go. They didn't want a refund. They wanted to go on an expedition. Well, the guy who was going to do this expedition canceled out. So they canceled the expedition because it was too close to when it was supposed to happen. These people called him up and said, I don't want my money back. I want to do this. It's COVID. I want to get out of the house.
Absolutely.
And do it. So somebody called me and said this guy bailed out last minute, probably COVID, don't know. And so I'll do it. I've got a good partner, Harold, that I've known all my life. He lives in Illinois, Murfreesboro. And so I'm going, oh, that's perfect. I got an assistant. I mean, he'll help me, you know. So I called him up and he was there. So it was 4 people, me, and Harold. That's all that was on the expedition, 4 people. There's usually 20 or 30. It was just, that's the way it was, COVID. So we camped about 12 miles away from where we went. Now, what I do when I scout is I go to these little towns. I go to the mom and pop restaurant.
Yeah.
7 o'clock in the morning, everybody's in their bib overalls. I ask all the locals, where's a good place to go look for Sasquatch? I'll just ask them. Well, I know where you don't want to go, and you don't want to go over here.
That's where I'm going.
That's
That's
You're gonna
exactly
get-
what he said.
Yeah.
Because there's this area in town, and once I found out, I was going, oh, what did I do? Oh my God, I might be screwed for this. He said, there's not a man, woman, or anybody that'll go in this area after dark. Nobody. The baddest, machoest people, they won't go there at all. Well, that's for me.
That's where I'm
Where I'm
going.
going. Well, I come to find out it was the Trail of Tears.
That's right.
And
That's right.
that's where, at this location, specific location that I found,
This is great.
94 Native Americans froze to death,
Oh, shit.
waiting to get to the Mississippi River, which was just not that far.
I've read about that story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It gets better. That is why nobody goes there at night. Well, 3 or 4 years before, a flood had come through there and washed out a lot of the graves.
Oh, no.
And so they were uninterred. And they were all wrapped in red blankets. And so
Smallpox.
they were put back in the ground, but not with the spiritual service and prayers that the Native Americans would do when they bury their dead.
Yep.
So these were like a hastily dug, and we're just going to throw you back in, and we're going to shove the blanket where we could find them. And it was really, and what they had done is they paved this big parking lot, which had allowed a lot of water go into this area. So, but once I got there, it had all been fixed and all that. But they had a plaque there, and it told all about these Native Americans that froze to death. It's horrible, horrible, horrible. So, but that's where we went for our expedition. And there's about 100-yard gully where all this water had washed through there. And there was debris, rocks, logs everywhere. And we got a lot of good footprints. We got a lot of calls. A lot of, we could hear them. But when we went down this gully, they would not respond. They would not do anything. They would not, respond to a knock or a call or nothing. They were just, you could hear them, kind of snorting around and walking. They were following us.
They're like, what are these guys doing?
But they were way up there. The bank was like 15, 20 feet high. And it slowly went down. So we got down to this one area, and that's where this big log was across most of the gully. And so we said, well, this is going to be a stopping point because we were hearing some kind of really spooky stuff over here, and there was one woman who was brave but losing her intestinal fortitude. And being late and all that. She said,
That's just starts getting darker.
we'll go back. That's fine. We've had a great night. So I go back, and that was Saturday night. That was our last night. And so I said, Harold, I'm going to leave my camera
This is awesome.
here, and I'm going to come back and get it in the morning on my way back to Kansas City. So now Harold, short, round guy, he's had strokes, cancer, so he didn't go down there with us the first night. He stayed in his truck in the parking lot because it was just too much for him. He just can't. Very ragged, rugged terrain. He just couldn't make it.
Makes sense.
And so the second night he went with us, and he stopped at one log, and we went on further down to this other one. So he got there a little bit. So I said, I'm going to leave my camera. Probably not going to get anything. You never do, but I won't get anything at all if I don't leave my camera. So I left my camera, trail camera, sitting at the edge of this log right here. I get back there Sunday morning, 7:30, 8 o'clock, sun's coming up. I get down there, and I see these rocks on this log. I go, what's this? So This wasn't there. We left about 5 o'clock. It gets dark at 5:36 in October. And like I said, with COVID, nobody's out doing anything. So we got back to camp. So we left, and that was just the log sitting there. Get back, there's 5 rocks and 1 rock on the end. Here's how I know. Sometimes I get tear up when I have to tell this story. It told me I made a breakthrough. That told me that I was on the right track. So I'm counting the rocks. I'm looking at them. I'm going, crap! Oh my God! That's me. That's me, the leader, the pointed rock. Sorry, and 4 rocks. The 4 expedition people. There's Harold at the other end.
By himself.
Separated.
Yeah,
He was there, but he wasn't there.
it's incredible. That's incredible.
Oh, it's even better. So, excuse me, I'm sorry. I call my wife, and I'm freaking out. I'm going, you can't believe this. I was telling her the whole story. She's going, what time did that happen? I said, well, I don't know, but we left about 5:30 because it was getting dark. And she said, well, last night, 8:30, a blue orb comes into the bedroom, 325 miles away, in my house.
What are the
Flies around twice, goes into the bathroom, disappears. They were telling me they know where I live, they know who I am.
Wow.
I mean, I'm such a weenie, I can't, but it just,
I get the same way. It's
just like, you go, oh my God.
That's a spiritual experience.
It's real.
absolute.
It's
Would
nothing.
you ever have gotten that on that?
It's nothing other than what it was, and I could have looked at that and just gone, well, somebody must have been walking by here after we did, because a lot of people visit, and a lot of people leave flowers and gifts as to pay homage to the Native Americans. But that is.
Yeah, that's not coincidence.
No, it's serendipity if it's anything. But it's them going, human. We didn't want to talk to you that night. You were making too much noise. But we know who you are.
Well, this is where I asked him.
They were there.
They know how to count. They know how just by the patterns.
Yeah.
And what he had there.
And the rock, I'm the leader.
Jesus Christ.
What was that?
I don't know, but I just pooped myself.
Oh, again?
Again.
That happens sometimes.
Well, at our age.
We had no. We have a document at home called Strangeness in Our Home, where all kind of weird things happen, and they do come in and do weird stuff, chat with you, and
That's
I apologize.
dogs.
That is Rufus dropping his bone trying to get Roscoe off Mama's lap.
Yeah.
So anyway, that was like my aha moment. So there's not a soul on this planet that can come and tell me that they do not have the skill set to interpret you, to communicate with you of a level that you would understand, whether it's spiritually or a physical presentation like that.
I think after something like that, I think you would have a hard time getting me out of the woods.
Yeah. No, I would agree with that.
It was just like,
So you slept on the ground one time.
Well, yeah.
yeah.
I'm too old to be sleeping on the ground.
Get the bugs off of me. Yeah.
I've already done the tent thing and on the ground thing.
Yeah, well,
I'm gonna need some cushions.
So to close this out, because we're getting close to 4 o'clock, I have. Did you guys have questions for me?
Well, I want to make sure that we plug, have Carter tell people how they can get his books, how they can look him up and stuff like that as well.
First, though, I want to, because I've been kind of quiet over here.
Yeah.
You have.
Well, they talk a lot. If you haven't figured out.
What are you thinking about the
Your
talkers?
first book, your forward, I thought was so well written.
Yeah.
Because you've covered a broad, because like I said, there's a large group that it's just an ape. There's the other group that it's paranormal, supernatural, and then because it's a wide spectrum of whatever it can be. In your forward, you brought up that one of the things that they say, they don't know what they saw, but they can definitely tell you what it wasn't.
Yeah.
And that resonates. Like, most people don't understand. These people are out there.
Yeah.
They know what a bear is. And a lot of people make fun, oh, you're just a bear or a mangy bear.
yeah.
But I thought you wrote that so well to let people understand that, these people, they're not gaining anything by telling you these stories.
Yeah.
That's right.
By showing you these pictures. There's
That's
no,
100%.
a lot of them have very astute backgrounds, but they may not say flat out, "Oh, that was a Bigfoot," but they're like, "I know it wasn't a bear. I know it wasn't somebody in a costume." And I appreciated that in your first opening. I thought it was so well written to get people to understand. You're not out here to gain anything from it.
Yeah, and they don't want anything. That's why all my books, there's no fiction in any of my books whatsoever. None. The people's names are changed, and if I use a location, the location is different. Because who they are and where they are matters not. It's the events that they are going through on a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly basis. And they're just telling me a day in the life, and I'm just the conduit, And they're having these incredible events, and the more they have them on their property, the more they are shown. They show them their offspring, they gift, they walk around while they're working in the yard, they'll throw rocks up on the, I've sat on the front porch and drank beer with them and had them call me back in my exact voice.
That's not creepy.
Well, let's think about that. When we talk about, in the Appalachians,
mimicry.
The women crying, children crying, and you hear something that mimics the voice, and you're like, "Oh, is that?" And people go 411. You go off looking for them.
So that's my biggest pet peeve. These guys don't agree with me, but if you're out in the middle of the woods in the night, pretty far from anything civilized, and you hear a little kid say, "Help me, help me," my ass is not going to go help that kid.
Nope, it's not a kid.
Thank you. But these guys are like, "I'd go check it out."
Yeah, what kid's out there at 4 o'clock in the morning?
Exactly. See, I'm not the only one.
All I can go by is,
experience.
My experience,
that's
I grew
pure
up with
setup.
I grew up with no chaperone at all. That would be me out in the woods, and as a father.
Well, that's your own fault.
Yeah, well, I couldn't pick my parents, but I would go out and help. So I'll live with that consequence or die with it.
That's fair. I'm not willing.
That's just the man I am.
So I have to ask, of all the habituation cases that you've looked into and investigated, is there any of them that while they're out in their yard or their field working and see a Sasquatch or Bigfoot peeking out of a tree or watching them, anybody that's been like, "Hey, how's it going?" and come here, trying to interact with them in that way?
They try. They don't do it. They will come very close. My people that have the farming operation, they have them coming by and watching them as they're working.
That's awesome.
The plants in the greenhouses. They go in there and they have a deal worked out. You don't take all of our food. You can eat a little. They go in there and eat, and they'll pass out and fall asleep, and you'll see this big 8-foot, 9-foot tall impression in the grass on the ground when they wake up. That's when he caught that one time.
The juvenile running
in it, and it ran by him. It brushed up against him. This juvenile brushed up against the kid that saw the dog man. He went out because the lights went on, they were tired of the food disappearing. So the lights went on outside, and they thought, they first really thought, they knew the Sasquatch were there. They thought maybe the neighbors were stealing food because it's not a great neighborhood. The people are hurting down there, in certain areas. So they thought the neighbors were stealing food. They're going to put a stop to it anyway. So when the lights all went out, he ran out there. So I'm going to catch whoever this is, and you quit eating our food. Well, it was a juvenile, and there was screaming coming from this part of the woods. As he got a little bit closer, there was screaming coming from this part of the woods. As he got right to the greenhouse, there was screaming coming from inside because the juvenile got caught. He was, oh, what do I? So he just ran out, and he ran as my guy was walking in. Just ran right by. They brushed up against. They could have kissed their chests.
That's crazy.
And that's bull. No, I know these people. You know what I mean? You just you gotta have some faith in humanity. These people are God-fearing, super religious. It's just not in them. and they feel like they're privileged and chosen to be in this situation. They're like, oh my God, this is so wonderful. This is so cool. We've learned so much, and so, but they wave. My other family in Steveville, they've shown them a newborn. Come out from behind a tree. He has to walk about a quarter mile up to get his mail every morning. That's when he walks his dog. It keeps blocked up, so he walks a quarter mile. And every now and then the Squatch will reach out from behind a tree and just peek and let them know that they see him. But one time, it was either a female or the male holding the baby, probably the female.
Just to let them know we're the same.
Yeah.
And just to let them know we had our baby.
Well, and the Dogman account from the same person, now you have a person that sees Sasquatch on a regular basis, goes, that's not the same thing.
It's not the same thing. It had the back ass with dog legs. It had the big floppy ears that were doing this, and when it did this, the ears were doing this. I mean, he was very descriptive of it. He just...
That's not George.
That's not George. That's not George, But that's a dog man. So, but these people, they're sharing this stuff with me. About a year after the Sasquatch showed the baby, they send me another picture, and it's dawn, but barely. And the sun's coming up. You see a big Sasquatch with the sun coming up behind him. It's really still very dark. It's just barely peeking over. So there's just enough you can see the silhouette. Now, with most people that say, that's a blob squatch, but I know what it is. In front of him was the juvenile that was probably the baby they showed him 2 or 3 years before.
Wow.
That's cool.
4 or 5 foot tall. It's a supposition. We don't know. But
Yeah.
it was in whenever they have a series of trail cameras out there, they will pose for them. They know when they're on and when they're off. They're part of that electronic where it's a network like Verizon or whatever. They have trail cameras that are, and they're only programmed to take a picture like every so often. But it will take on movement, but it'll take
Afterwards.
in between,
Yeah.
or after, before, after, just as a random.
Right.
You get 5 free shots an hour per camera, and then each one costs you more if you take anything other. So whatever, however that works, I don't do any of that. But anyway, they are showing a familial relationship to a family of humans with familial relationship. You know what I mean?
That's cool.
Here's Johnny.
Yeah.
Look at him, he's so cute. He's gonna be 12 feet tall in about a week.
We're so proud of them.
But that's what they're doing. And it's habitual. They're wanting to mesh with the families. We have families too. We're just like you. We're just kind of ugly.
That's a very mammalian thing to do. Like cats do that. I mean, a lot of animals will, if you coexist in the same area, will take you and show you their offspring. Let you know that.
Yeah.
Only difference is cats are dicks. I don't like cats.
Yeah.
That's okay.
I'm allergic to them, so I have a...
Yeah, I get it. So, but that, and I just followed this path because it makes the most sense. And I've got, 7 to 10 families, maybe up to 12, but really 5 or 6 are like really producing, they're like, I'll wake up one morning, I've got, 6 messages on Messenger. I've got this, photos, and I'm going, oh, God.
That's cool.
So the question is, are there more books coming up?
Yeah.
I don't know.
And are you going to incorporate any of these new pictures or sounds, maybe an audio book?
I
I
don't
was
know.
to say,
Yeah, you're not on Audible. I tried.
No, Kindle.
I do.
Yeah, but,
I have you on Kindle right now. That's how I've been keeping up.
Oh, yeah. No, I don't know. I thought I had all of it out of my system, but I'm starting to get
You're
stuff.
still getting more information.
Yeah.
That's why I asked.
And the second, the other.
And you'll have a good
subject.
chapter. You're going to take
Yeah.
3 oversized guys into the woods to investigate
And only
Missouri.
2 will come back.
Yeah.
Sorry, man.
Why is everybody looking at me?
I can't believe that bear caught him. Probably because my gun went off and I shot him in the knee by accident. I don't know how that happened.
Twice.
Hear me off in the distance. I can't squeal. I can't squeal.
Well, you can. It just hurts a little bit first time going in.
So where can people go to learn more about you, your books, your endeavors?
Well, my books, I'm self-published. I sell all my books out of my house. They're not on Amazon. They would cost too much because they're full-color books. My books are on Kindle. You can get the books on Kindle on color on Amazon, but these books would cost too much because they're full color on nice paper, not just a paperback on bulk stuff. So, but I'm self-published. My email sqexplorer@gmail.com. Pretty creative, huh? SQ Explorer, and my website is sqexplorer.com. If you want to go there.
We'll put a link to that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We'll
but
put
I
links.
mail all the books out of my house. I sign all my books, personalize them to whoever you want.
Thank you.
And do you
Yeah,
mind if I
appreciate it.
incorporate some of the pictures from the books in the episode?
No, go ahead.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
They're all copyright protected, so yeah. If there's one you want and it doesn't have a copyright, let me know. I'll send you one with a
Okay.
copyright mark. I think I put most of the copyright. People in the Sasquatch world like to steal stuff.
Yeah.
Yes, they do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, not just the
It's not a
Sasquatch.
friendly-
No.
The whole paranormal world, they like to steal.
I think we're tipping the needle a little bit. This year we've had this conversation. Well, we got to meet you. You have been phenomenal. Just talking with you
Absolutely.
on the Friday and then the Saturday. You willing to come this way to sit with us?
Yeah, it's an honor.
We've met a whole bunch of other podcasters in the same film, Drunk and Cryptids, Myth Monsters and Mullets. People are now getting because like 10 years ago, it was very competitive. Like people would say bad things about people, try to keep people out. From big, from cryptid to UFO to hauntings. I think something shifted. What? I'm not sure. But at least for us, it seems way more opening for people to start talking.
Absolutely.
That can exist, the ape only, there's no ETs, that slowly just isn't making sense anymore in the world we live
Yes.
in. No matter how you look at it or how you pitch it, there's stuff going on. They just don't want you to know because knowledge is power and they want to keep power, the government, science, church, schools.
Yeah, I could do a 10-hour episode on UFOs and aliens with you.
Oh,
Well, anytime.
you're getting pretty booked for the year, so we need to make plans.
Yeah.
Do you have any Paracons or any conventions you're going to be going to anytime soon? that you want to?
Paracon next year.
Next year? You're going to be at the one at the Missouri Paracon again?
Yeah.
We're planning on being there.
Yeah, I
maybe
may be
too.
speaking there. I want to.
Oh,
I want to
nice.
speak.
That'd be good.
I don't know if he's going to let me, but he saw. I sold a lot of books on the ET stuff, and so he saw that. So he's thinking about it.
Good.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Because
that'd be.
that's where you get the real people when they come in, is they start sharing stuff with you.
Right.
Oh, I've got stories I could
Yeah.
blow your mind
He
with.
does. You have amazing
I-
stories. You absolutely
And
do.
my aha moment with the flash and
You flash the light, the cryptid, the dark. Yeah.
and the shadow figures. And
Yeah, that's definitely going to be.
that was the moment I was like, shit's real.
Yeah.
I thought it was real, but
And that's going to be
it's
a great-
real.
Yeah.
And hopefully there'll be an episode where Carter can come and you guys
Yeah.
you can tell your story and
We need to get
you
Jason
can
on that
bounce to
too.
Carter. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so me and my friend Jason go sky watching all the time.
Yeah.
And I've seen some stuff, man, that I just cannot explain.
But yeah, hopefully we can do Monkey Mountain.
Yeah.
Carter, I'm going to
We'll
reach.
figure
obviously
out.
I'm
We'll
gonna
figure
reach
out a
to him.
time.
Yeah, preferably not in like August.
You what?
Not in
Not
August.
in August.
No, it'll be soon because I don't want. I'm going to take a road trip and go down and visit 3 of my families that are kind of in a big loop. So I'd rather get together with you guys and do that out here. But
Would love that.
if anybody has anything you want to talk about, it's all confidential. If you want to be in a book, if you got something, your name won't be used, your location won't be used, just your story. Your secrets are safe with me. So if anybody has something to talk, if you just want to talk and don't just want to get a theory or an idea, contact me.
And you know what? I highly recommend reading even the first book.
The first book was amazing.
It'll tell you everything you need to know about Carter. It's
Yeah.
a book that spoke to me, and I think Carter, he'll protect you for sure.
And saying this myself, I think I speak for the other two gentlemen on the podcast.
That's a
But I feel honored to have had you come on. This has been a revelation for me, because it's a breath of fresh air to get someone that comes on that's passionate about cryptids and Bigfoot, but also has the mindset that it can be a lot of different unexplained theories. Most people are pigeonholed mind-wise. Oh. And it's nice to sit down and talk to someone as esteemed as you that's willing to have an open mind about different theories and whatnot. So I'm honored.
I don't know if I can get my head out there. That big. Yeah. No, I appreciate that. And the more you know, no.
Yeah. Yes.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes.
Wow.
You're absolutely right.
It's very true.
And it's not rocket science.
No. It's like you said earlier, when you get an answer to a question, now I've got 10 more questions.
Yeah. Well, it means I answered the question right the first time.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it brought on more. That's the whole thing about all these books, is just these people are saying this stuff, and the reason they don't come out and talk of ridicule, fear of ridicule and mocking, and that shuts people up.
Absolutely.
That's why I put no names and no locations, because you can tell your story all day long. And if you're in Montana, I'll have you in North Carolina, and your name would be Billy Bob or something. But
or Jeff.
It's not who or where, it's the story. And all these people are having these stories, and they're sitting on them because they're afraid to tell anybody because they get laughed at. And who laughs at you the worst? Your wife, your husband, your coworkers, your significant other.
Luckily, I don't have any of that.
You bring that up again, go sleep on the couch. So that's it. There's a safe haven, or contact these guys, anybody that you feel comfortable with, to tell something, and it just won't go anywhere.
Yeah.
Unless you are okay with it.
Yeah, unless you want it to. I mean, that's.
But getting it off your chest and getting another point of view, whatever the point of view is, whether it agrees or disagrees with you, is just another stage of learning. Like, okay, that's an opinion, that's my opinion, this is what happened, this is what I think might be. So you have choices now. So at least when you start talking to people and sharing your stuff, you got to share it with people. Just people you trust. Get it out there.
And what we find out is a lot of people, like, we'll start telling some of our stories and experiences, which makes them understand that, okay, maybe they're not going to think we're 100% crazy because they have experiences. Because we have other podcasters and friends of ours that have, just like you, have had personal. I haven't had any cryptid experiences yet. Maybe that'll change shortly.
Well, we'll fix that.
We'll fix that.
Bring some lube with you.
Yeah. I run faster than Dave. I'm good.
I'm working up that theory to a test.
But,
I'll be about 40 yards ahead of all three.
You guys are going to tie me to a tree and like rip my shirt off and pour honey on me as bait.
Absolutely. Just like we did at Beast of Ray Road. Didn't work out too well. Sorry about the raccoon, though.
That's all right.
But no, we have a bunch of group of people that have had experiences that it's easier to talk to somebody. Called trauma bonding. If you've had something happen,
that's a good word.
That's why we chum.
Yeah,
it opens them up a little bit.
That loosens people up. We tell stories. Then they go, well, I don't know if it was paranormal, but this one time.
Yeah, that one time.
And I'm sure there's a bunch of other people that have been out in the woods and they have the same thing. It's like, well, this one time I heard something that doesn't sound like any animal. And these are from people that they live out there. They hunt.
What was that, Mama?
So, we are open to
Let's start bringing underwear.
Having people come on and talk to us. It doesn't have to be on air. Just get their story out, just to get it, because it's a relief to be able to talk to somebody.
They get it off their.
It does a lot. It does a lot.
It's a weight relief.
It's therapy. If anything, it's therapy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So thank you for coming on.
Absolutely.
People go check out his website, his books, and if you have questions for him, please go message him and reach out to him, or reach out to us if you want to be like an intermediary between. We'll talk to him for you if you're not comfortable doing that. But
I have his number. I'm not going to let that go.
Until next time. Thanks for watching.